This is a speaker meeting. Our speaker will share his experience, strength, and hope for approximately 45 minutes. We ask out of respect for our speaker to please remain seated until he's finished. It is my pleasure to introduce Nate.
Hey guys, I'm Nate. I'm an alcoholic. It's truly an honor to be here. I still consider this my home group. Not here every week like I used to be, but that's just because life kind of, took me out for a little bit, and got busy, job, things start going good, and there's no substitute for doing this regularly in my life. I've gone looking, in sobriety, nothing that can keep me with a good life, with a good head on my shoulders that works like AA does. And I've always just kind of had issues fitting in. I felt socially awkward, always, trouble making friends, even harder keeping them. But, that's, just the thing with me. And, first drinks were basically my folks just giving me little sips of wine or beer or even, like hard alcohol, and just, trying to normalize it so that I wouldn't think it's a big deal, because I guess that's what they do in Europe, and it works for them, but it didn't work for me, because around 13 years old, they go off to have dinner one night, and I decide that I'm going to go and get drunk. And like any good 13-year-old would, I downed most of half of a bottle of Bacardi Gold. And so I'm puking in my toilet upstairs, and my mom and dad come home. I'm like, oh, it's food poisoning, and and they're like, okay, whatever. And then my dad comes back upstairs with the bottle, and I didn't know it was going to go that far, but I initially liked it, and I wanted to get more and more and more, and eventually it's just I'm puking, and I'm not good at managing it because I'm not any good at covering my tracks. And a sane person would have maybe poured it out and then put the bottle away. Me, I'm just like, let's do this, let's just get drunk. And that's what I did. I got caught, and, they're up all night feeding me bread and water while I'm, puking my guts up. 13 years old. I talked to my dad recently about this because me and him have a relationship, and I want to have a relationship with the guy because I love him now. I used to resent him, but, he told me that I swore up and down that I was never going to drink again after that if that's what drinking was going to be like. And I know that I have said that to myself many times over the years. And my problem is, realistically, I just forget. I'll like, oh man, that last weekend sucked. It sucked. Everybody's, ashamed to be my friend. Nobody's returning my calls. I feel terrible. I got a headache. I'm feeling just so dry and just tired and, whatever. But I'm not going to drink next weekend. And Friday rolls around, and I feel great. Bounce back. I feel pretty good. And, but just because alcohol, what makes me different than other people, alcohol does the same thing to everybody. If you drink, you have a few drinks, you're going to get a buzz. If you have a few more drinks, you're going to get drunk. And sooner or later, you're going to end up getting sick. It does that to any single human. I don't care if you're an alcoholic or not. For me, what alcohol does for me is it helps me to feel okay in my own skin. And it helps me to manage that feeling and subvert and not face all of these emotions that everybody's got, alcoholic or not. It's just the human condition gone back, forever. And, I'm not used to dealing with all these things. Instead, I just blot it out with alcohol. And that's the difference between me and a normal person who can, have a few glasses of wine and just be okay, or, drink half a beer and not like the taste of it and not have to drink the rest of it like I would. I'm the kind of guy at a party that, is looking for wounded soldiers around 3 a.m. That's me, So anyway, progressing onward through my story, I got drunk numerous times, through middle school, through high school, got sent away by my parents. Eventually, 2012 on the 4th of July, there was a big party in the park, and a lot of people were drinking that day in the park. Not a lot of them got arrested that day in the park. I did. Eventually I got taken out of my home, and I was put in state custody for like a little over a year. And I developed some pretty bad mannerisms there because I kind of had to adopt an identity that wasn't necessarily me in order to stay safe, because I was in a situation that, I wasn't used to. I grew up upper middle class, and here I am in the foster system, and having to deal with all the things that go along with that. A lot of kids that didn't grow up like I did, very institutionalized, growing up around gangs and growing up living in crack houses, things like that, and I had to adopt a completely different mentality that is not who I was as a person. I deal with that to this day, and I have to recognize that, hey, I have to figure out a lot of times, like, hey, in this situation, what would a kind and loving man do? And it's usually the opposite of what I really want to do, and that's kind of scary for me. So anyway, a lot of people, that'd be a wake-up call that, hey, I gotta, change something, and for me, it wasn't. I just kind of dived in, and I came back from all that. Senior year of high school, I got kicked out of my parents' house because I didn't learn my lesson. I kept drinking, and I was homeless for senior year of high school. I was sleeping in my one of my friend's backyards. He had like a shed that was basically like a little clubhouse type deal, and I brought a space heater up there, and I'd go get drunk and sleep up there. I didn't shower a whole lot there. Sometimes I'd shower at the school. Sometimes he'd let me into his house while his parents weren't looking, and I'd shower there. But I was working a job as a dishwasher, not saving any money, smelling like God knows what. Thankfully, I smoked cigarettes back then, so I couldn't smell myself. But yeah, so a lot of people would have, all I had to do to come home would have been to clean up my act, and I wasn't willing to do that, and just because it's like that's what I needed to do. This is my thing. I need this, and I didn't even realize it back then. I had an opportunity to get into AA back then. My mom told me that there's a guy that lets people stay at his house if they're willing to abide by certain rules, and I didn't like rules, so why would I want anything that man had to offer? So fasting forward, I keep getting into trouble. Been to jail numerous times for all sorts of stupid things, and I ended up on felony probation after one stint, and most people would quit to try to, not piss dirty or, screw it up and get out of trouble, but not me. I would go to the bar still. I was still trying to have a social life and still do my thing, and for whatever reason I got away with it. So eventually I get off that, and I decided that it was my location, my geography. That's a weird way to pronounce that. Still kind of nervous to this day. Public speaking is a huge fear for everybody. But I thought it was where I was living at, who I was hanging out with, and that things were going to be better off in Northern California. And turns out that I could do the exact same things in Northern California that I was doing in Utah. And then I decided it wasn't Northern California for me. It was going to be Southern Oregon for me. And I could do a lot more of the things that I like to do in Southern Oregon than I could do in Northern California, because I didn't know anybody and nobody was there to kind of rein me in. So, things got pretty hairy. There's a lot of stuff in my story that has nothing to do with alcoholism. So if you think that you might be an alcoholic, but you've also got other things, there's these things called outside issues. I have all of them, and and then some ones you probably never heard of or thought of. On a one-on-one level, I'd be happy to tell anybody about them if you think it might help you. I've seen and done some pretty hairy shit, and I'm not proud of it, but like the book says, no matter how far down we've gone, we can, our experience can help other people, and I'm willing to do that. So, for free and for fun, too. So, yeah. Anyway, eventually it just got too much for me, and I was losing my house. I was living in fear of people finding me, and house was trashed. Me and the woman I was with were not on good terms, and it just, something had to happen. I reached out to my mom for help. I ended up going to a treatment center, and there was basically a situation after about 20 days there that you couldn't pay these people to want to help me because I was so disagreeable and unruly. The therapist there that I had to call security on me because of how I was acting. And if your therapist calling security on you, it was my problem. I'm the one with the problem there. It wasn't him. But I thought it was him. I thought he was being an asshole. And anyway, so I got kicked out of there, and I don't think I really hit bottom until came up here to another treatment center, and yeah, it was pretty crazy. But when I was at that first place, they took us to an AA meeting, and this old timer there said something that really confused me at the time. And he said it was more profound than he ever realized, but that if I didn't drink, I wouldn't get drunk. And I had no idea what he meant by that. And I was like, so now what? And he's like, don't drink, you won't get drunk. I'm like, okay, well. And what I think he means by that, what I've come to believe, is that anybody who's, alcohol is a problem in their life, if alcohol is just a problem in my life, if I quit drinking, my life would have gotten better, it would have been perfect, everything's great, but the problem wasn't alcohol. For me, it was alcoholism, is the fact of, nearly a decade of, off and on, but, consistently covering up that mental, emotional, and spiritual condition that every single human being on this planet deals with. I don't care if you're, the freaking Dalai Lama. He's probably got to deal with his own shit sometimes. And the only difference is I was just not exposed to it at all. And it's like, somebody who's never been to a gym in their life starts trying to pick up weights. They can't do it. They can't do what's needed to be done. I needed people to help me lift the weight in this situation, get it off me. And it wasn't until I was willing to ask for that, like truly ask for it, not like, oh, I'm going to do this, don't worry, trust me, I've got this. But like, hey, I don't know how to do this. I don't trust me. I don't got this. Can you please help me? And after that, it started working, because like realistically, like I can be my worst enemy in a lot of different situations, and I don't see it. I just don't see it. And it's, it's really tragic because I know I'm capable of doing many things, but that same person with that same capability of doing good and constructive things is capable of destroying my life, and I have to realize what side of the coin I'm on in a lot of situations. And luckily I have a lot of good guidance. There's people I can talk to. I've got a great sponsor. He's been around forever. I think they were inventing the wheel when he got sober. But yeah, he's not here tonight, so I can say whatever I want to. Anyway, you guys won't tell him, right? Cool. All right. Yeah, so, eventually I was in a treatment center long term because, I had outside issues, like psychological issues, not just alcoholism, not just spiritual and emotional issues, but like deep-seated issues that, like I'm not going to talk about here today. But I can tell you that a lot of the people I went there with are not around today. The attrition rate for recovery is pretty heavy, and it could be me, Like, there's literally, there's vodka in my house. It doesn't belong to me. It belongs to my partner, and I don't plan on drinking it anytime soon, but it's there, And if it wasn't there, my ID is horizontal, which means that in any state in this country, I can walk into a liquor store, and I can go and buy a bottle if I'm feeling it. And realistically, for, since, almost 2 years now, I haven't been feeling it. And, I have bad days. I do have days where I have to actively not take a drink. And it's not just some pink cloud. It used to be that. And a lot of times it is. But every now and then there's a bad day. And the thought crosses that mind that, maybe this will help. But it won't, yeah, so that's how I got to this area. And so just like when I moved to Northern California, just like when I moved from there to Oregon, wherever I went, there I was. And here I was in Prescott, Arizona, the exact same person doing the exact same things. And I needed help to figure out all of these things. And I really had to give it up. I can't take a whole lot of credit for it. I can thank God and the program for it. I had to do the work. I got the tools here. And that's it. I got guidance here. I got people to show me how to do it. It wasn't easy, but I'm glad I did. I had to first admit a bunch of truths about myself to myself and go dig through some stuff that I didn't like to admit, even to me, write it down on paper. It was pretty crazy. I had to go find my part where I had screwed people over, money I owe and all that stuff. I had to go and, talk to, a lot of this stuff is stuff I wouldn't want to talk to a therapist about. And then I had to go and tell an electrician about it in the fifth step. So, yeah, and I think 6 and 7. I gotta explain this. I had no idea what those two were because those are very short paragraphs in the book. But with my second sponsor, we worked through it, and he talked to me about it. The defect of character is the fear of looking bad, and I truly believe that anything, when I'm doing something for evil or just whacked off reasons, that it's because I'm afraid of looking bad. And I always wanted to, just be the cool kid, just do what they were doing. I wanted to fit in. I didn't want to be different than people because I'd always felt different. And that fear of looking bad has driven me to do some pretty stupid things, including drink. Because once I'm drunk, I'm not afraid of looking bad. I can dance, I can talk to people, I can fight, I can do a lot of things better than I can when I'm sober. I'm not scared. And, yeah, so, realistically, that's a day-to-day thing. I ask God for 3 things. I ask him to help me find my place, mind my own business, and do right by him, even if it makes me look bad. And I think that, kind of covers everything that I would like out of life. It's just those 3 things. But that's, personal for me. But, my 8 list, that was pretty long, man. And if you're a lot of these things like 4, 8, 9, they're pretty daunting. 4, 5, 8, 9, those are like the meaty steps that got the real tough meat on them. You got to chew through. And as I heard this once, if you're how to eat a shit sandwich, chew, swallow, repeat. And that's kind of how a lot of this stuff has worked for me. It wasn't easy going down, but it's what once I got rid of it, it wasn't there anymore. So I'm still making financial amends to this day. There's one gentleman I'm gonna be sending $100 a month to, hopefully hopefully I'll get him more, but realistically, I hope he's still alive before I can say I'm finished sending him money. I'm working on getting. I got my driving privileges back. That took me a while. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. But the thing is, after I clean all this stuff up, I still gotta live with the human condition. I'm still, the same guy. I've just learned different things. So I kind of got to keep track of that. And like I told you guys earlier, I'm not always on point. I'm, not always very observant of how I am, how I'm acting. Recently, life has been getting so good that I just decided, hey, I don't need as much AA. I can kind of wean myself out of this. And realistically, for me, I don't know how it is for anybody else in this room. I have not found anything that can keep me with a good life, with a level head like AA can. Doing these things, talking to people, being involved. Because I found some stuff that it's pretty close. It's pretty close. But it ain't AA. It ain't doing the same thing. So that's why I keep coming back. It's not because I'm, some saint. It's not because I'm getting paid. It's, because this works for me. And, if you stick around, if you're like me, maybe it'll work for you. I hope it does. So 11, that's, just basically, continuing it, continuing the work, trying to figure out what God wants in our life. And that's, it's pretty vague a lot of the times, but luckily I have somebody who's been around for a very long time to help me guide myself through this stuff and help me go, make the right choices, usually. Because life is, it kind of can be a rocky road, it can be a bumpy road sometimes. Sometimes it's really smooth sailing. And, I've only been around, it feels like, I don't know, like a month ago that I got sober. It's crazy. I didn't think I was going to make it this long. I didn't think, that life would look like this. Realistically, at 2 years sober, I probably would have wanted a giant mansion and a Lambo. And I wouldn't trade what I've got right now for either of those things, And if it didn't mean I couldn't have what I have right now, which is, it's pretty amazing. I've got a loving partner. We're always hanging out. I've got, athletic pursuits that challenge me constantly. I've got a good group of people that I can rely on for help. My family's back, man. I got my mom and dad back. And realistically, that didn't have much to do with them. That had to do with me, because the longer I've been sober, the better my childhood and my memory has gotten. Seriously. And I got beat as a kid, and, I got abandoned to the state. There's no other way to put it. I moved past that. I love my mom and dad today, and I understand why they did it. And, yeah. But anyway, so that brings me to 12, which is basically what I'm doing here right now. Is I'm willing to go and share stuff that, I don't normally talk about. I'm not going to go tell my employer what I told you guys tonight. I hope it stays here in this room, but that's just the risk I'm taking. If you got out of here and, we know you have mutual people and be like, oh, that guy's crazy. It is what it is. That's the risk I'm taking. I'm willing to take that. I hope you use it for your own stuff. But if not, whatever, man. Yeah, that's basically it. And then we practice these principles in all our affairs, which means the work's never done for me. I don't think it's, if I apply these things in my life, they are universally net positive for me. Like a recent example of this is, I'm not necessarily the best employee. I do just a little bit above the bare minimum. And that's just honestly true. Like when there's work, when there's something to do, I get it done fast, and then I just want to okay, cool, I'm here. And that's just kind of how I roll. And anyway, it was bagging on me, it was bagging on me for a while, and then eventually I just, my boss was pulling out of the parking lot, and I was just like, he's like, how you doing? I was like, I'm good. Wait, but actually, here, this is it, this is what's going on. He's like, and in my mind, I'm thinking, oh, if I tell this guy this stuff, he's going to fire me, and, I'm gone, it's like this is going to screw my life up, I can't put this job on my resume, and realistically, he's like, all right, just dig deep and do what you can. Okay. And it's pretty simple, but applying that principle, that 10 step, when I was wrong, promptly admit it. If I had admitted it sooner, I would have had a week less of feeling like a faker, feeling like a liar, because I do have those days too, and it's realistically 9 times out of 10 is something to do with me. But I genuinely, it's when I apply this stuff in my life, it works. And I don't think this, maybe you're not an alcoholic. I don't know what everybody here's deal is. I didn't pay attention to whose hands went up when John asked. But these things are pretty universal. I've been studying a lot of old religions, Eastern philosophies mainly, and, like the stuff that, is Western philosophies and religion too. And this stuff comes up in many different cultures. And I think it's just something that, people through trial and error have figured out that this type of stuff works in their life. And it's a way of life that works for many different people. The 12 steps are applied to many different programs. I don't think I worked them in AA, but I think my outside issues did get a little help here. And at least put me in a situation where I'm not getting wasted and I can work on them. And yeah, I'm grateful for that, because life really is great. It does get great, and it got so good for me that I just didn't want to show up as much. But here I am, so anyway, thanks for being here, guys. I don't have a whole lot else to say, but I don't think anybody's going to mind if I shut this down early. So